4 years of hiding, 3,000 miles of distance. One moment to shatter everything. When Damian Moretti, New York's most ruthless crime boss, walks into Nora Vance's quiet Seattle cafe, he's not there for coffee. His dark eyes lock onto the 5-year-old twins playing behind the counter, and recognition hits him like a bullet to the chest. Those eyes. That jawline. His own face staring back at him. The children he never knew existed. The secret Nora buried. And the moment he realizes the truth, the cafe doors lock. Armed men take position, and Nora understands that running was never going to be far enough. If you're hooked, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels around the world. The morning rain hammered against the windows of Brew and Bloom, turning the Seattle streets into rivers of gray. Inside, the cafe smelled like fresh espresso and cinnamon rolls, the kind of warmth that made customers linger over their laptops and paperback novels. Nora Vance moved behind the counter with practiced efficiency, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, flour dusting the sleeves of her faded flannel shirt. She was wiping down the espresso machine when the door chimed. The sound was ordinary. The man who walked through it was anything but. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with shoulders that filled the doorway and a presence that seemed to suck the oxygen from the room. His black overcoat was tailored to perfection. His dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Handsome in the way predators are handsome. Dangerous in the way storms are dangerous. Nora's hand froze on the towel. No, not here, not now. Behind her, near the play corner she'd set up with picture books and building blocks, Eli and Maya were constructing a tower. 5 years old, identical in nearly every way except for the small scar above Eli's left eyebrow from a playground tumble last year. They were laughing, completely oblivious to the way the temperature in the cafe had just dropped 10 degrees. The man's eyes swept the room, cataloging exits, customers, threats, before landing on Nora. And when they did, something flickered in those dark depths. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. "We're closed for a private event," Nora said, her voice steadier than she felt. "You'll have to come back later." The lie was paper thin, and they both knew it. 3 customers sat scattered around the cafe, nursing drinks and scrolling through their phones. The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I don't think so," he said, his voice low and smooth, with just a hint of a New York accent underneath. "I've come a long way for this cup of coffee, Miss Vance." The use of her name sent ice through her veins. She set down the towel carefully, buying herself a moment to think. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "Not anymore." He stepped further inside, and that's when Nora noticed the second man, shorter, stockier, with a face like a clenched fist, who'd slipped in behind him and was now positioning himself near the door. "But we knew each other once. Quite well, actually." Nora's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel the weight of the panic button under the counter, installed after a robbery attempt 2 years ago. But what good would the police do against him? "I think you have me confused with someone else," she said. "Nora Catherine Brennan," the man said, and hearing her real name, the one she'd buried along with her old life, was like a hand closing around her throat. "Graduated Columbia with a degree in art history. Worked at the Met for 6 months before you disappeared. 4 years ago. Without a trace." He took another step forward, and the cafe's ambient noise seemed to fade into white static. 4 years, 3 months, and 16 days to be exact. He'd been counting. "I don't know what you're talking about," Nora said, but her voice cracked on the last word. The man's attention shifted then, drawn by the sound of children's laughter. His head turned slowly toward the play corner, and Nora watched in horror as his entire body went rigid. Eli was holding up a block tower triumphantly while Maya clapped. The overhead light caught their faces perfectly, the sharp line of their jaws, the deep-set eyes, the slight cleft in their chins. The man stared at them for what felt like an eternity. Then he looked back at Nora, and the expression on his face was something she'd never seen before. Not anger, not even rage, something colder, more final. "Those are my children," he said quietly. The words dropped into the cafe like stones into still water. "No," Nora whispered. "No, they're not. Don't." His voice cut like a blade. "Don't you dare lie to me. Not about this." One of the customers glanced up, sensing the tension, and the man by the door cleared his throat softly. The customer looked at him, at the hard warning in his eyes, and quickly gathered his things and left. Within 2 minutes, the cafe was empty except for Nora, the children, and the 2 men. The man by the door turned the sign to closed and locked it. "My name is Damian Moretti," the tall man said, still staring at the twins. "Though I suspect you already know that." Nora's knees felt weak. She gripped the counter to keep herself upright. "I want you to leave," she said. "Now." "Not a chance in hell." Damian's eyes snapped back to her, and they were blazing now. "You stole my children. You disappeared in the middle of the night and took something that didn't belong to you." "They didn't belong to you either." The words burst out before Nora could stop them. "You think I was going to let them grow up in that world, watching people get hurt, learning that violence is the answer to everything? So you made the decision for me." His voice was dangerously soft. "You decided I had no right to know my own children existed." "You had no right to them," Nora shot back. "Not then. Not now." Damian moved closer, and Nora instinctively backed up until she hit the wall. He stopped just short of the counter, close enough that she could see the muscle ticking in his jaw. "I want a paternity test," he said. "We'll do it today, right now." "Absolutely not. That wasn't a request. You can't just—" Nora's voice rose, and she forced herself to lower it, glancing at the twins who were still playing, oblivious. "You can't just walk in here and demand things. You have no legal rights. No claim." "Legal rights." Damian laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think I give a damn about legal rights? You think a piece of paper is what gives me claim to my own blood?" "They're not yours," Nora said desperately. "They're mine. I carried them. I raised them. I've been there for every nightmare, every fever, every scraped knee. Where were you?" "I didn't know they existed." The roar made Nora flinch, and this time the twins looked up, their small faces creasing with concern. Damian saw them watching and visibly fought to control himself, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. When he spoke again, his voice was deadly calm. "You made sure of that." Eli stood up, his little hand reaching for Maya's. "Mama?" The single word seemed to crack something in the tension. Nora pushed past Damian. He let her, though his eyes tracked every movement, and knelt beside the children. "It's okay, baby," she said, smoothing Eli's dark hair. "This man he's just a customer who's confused." "He's scary," Maya whispered, pressing against Nora's side. "I know, sweetheart, but he's leaving soon." Nora looked up at Damian, pleading silently. "Please, not in front of them." But Damian wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at the twins with an expression that was part wonder, part devastation. He moved closer, slowly, like he was approaching wild animals that might bolt. "How old are you?" he asked quietly. Maya held up 5 fingers. Eli copied her, though he looked uncertain. 5, Damian repeated. He crouched down, bringing himself to their eye level, and Nora's heart lurched. Side by side like this, the resemblance was impossible to miss. They had his eyes, the same deep brown, almost black. His bone structure. Even the way Eli tilted his head when he was thinking was pure Damian. "What are your names?" "I'm Maya," Maya said, still wary but less frightened now that he was smaller. "That's my brother, Eli." "Eli and Maya," Damian said, and something in his voice broke on the words. "Those are beautiful names." "Mama picked them," Eli offered, "because they mean strong." "Did she?" Damian's eyes cut to Nora, and she saw the accusation there. "You named them. You watched them grow. You had everything I should have had." "We have to go," Nora said abruptly, standing and taking both twins' hands. "Come on, guys, time to close up early." "You're not going anywhere." The man by the door, Nora had almost forgotten him, spoke for the first time. His voice was gravel and rust. "Marco," Damian said softly, a warning. "Boss, you want me to secure the perimeter?" Damian stood slowly, his eyes never leaving Nora's face. "Yes. Make sure we're not disturbed." Terror shot through Nora's chest. "You can't keep us here. People know where I am. If I don't pick up the kids from—" She stopped, realizing her mistake. "From where?" Damian asked. "They're already with you. Who's expecting you?" Nora's mind raced. Her employee, Claire, wasn't due in until the afternoon shift. Her neighbor sometimes checked in, but not daily. The truth was, she'd built a quiet life specifically so that no one would notice if something went wrong. No one except the man standing in front of her. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want the truth." Damien's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "All of it, starting with why you ran." "You know why." "Tell me anyway." Nora glanced at the twins. They were watching the exchange like spectators at a tennis match, too young to understand but old enough to sense danger. "Not here," she said. "Not in front of them." Damien considered this. Then he nodded. "Marco, take the children into the back room. Let them watch something on a tablet." "No!" Nora lunged forward, but Damien caught her wrist in an iron grip. "They'll be safe," he said. "You have my word." "Your word means nothing to me." "It's all I'm offering." They stared at each other, a silent battle of wills. Finally, Nora forced herself to relax, to turn toward the twins with a smile she didn't feel. "Eli, Maya, this is Marco. He's going to take you to the back room to watch cartoons while Mama talks to Mr. Moretti, okay?" "I want to stay with you," Maya said, her lower lip trembling. "I know, baby. But I need you to be brave for just a little while. Can you do that for me?" Maya looked uncertain, but Eli, always the protector, even at 5, took his sister's hand and nodded. "We'll be brave, Mama." Nora watched Marco lead them through the kitchen door, and the moment they disappeared, she rounded on Damien. "If you hurt them, I would die before I let harm come to those children," Damien said, and the conviction in his voice stopped her cold. "They're mine, Nora. Mine. Do you understand what that means?" "It means nothing," Nora said. "Biology doesn't make you a father." "Then what does?" The question was sharp, challenging. "Love? Care? Being there? You don't think I would have given them that if I'd known?" "No," Nora said flatly. "I don't. Because I knew you, Damien. I knew what you were. What you did." "What I am," he corrected. "That hasn't changed." "Exactly." Nora crossed her arms, a futile shield. "You're a criminal. You hurt people. You run an empire built on fear and blood, and you wanted me to bring children into that?" "I wanted a choice." The words exploded out of him. "You didn't even give me a chance to—" He cut himself off, jaw working. "You just vanished. Do you have any idea what that was like? Waking up to an empty apartment, all your things gone, no note, no explanation?" "I couldn't risk a note. You would have tracked me down." "You're damn right I would have." Damien moved closer, and Nora held her ground, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. "I tore the city apart looking for you. I had people searching every hospital, every morgue, every bus station and airport. I thought you were dead. I thought someone had taken you, hurt you. And when you didn't find a body, what then?" Nora challenged. "You just gave up?" "No." His voice dropped to something dangerous. "I never gave up. I kept looking, kept hoping, and now I know why I couldn't find you. You didn't just run. You erased yourself, changed your name, your identity. I did what I had to do, to keep my children from me, to keep them safe." "Safe from what?" Damien demanded. "From me? I would have protected them with my life." "Protected them from what?" Nora threw back. "From the enemies you've made? From the violence that follows you everywhere? From growing up thinking that guns and threats are normal?" She was breathing hard now, years of buried fear and anger spilling out. "I grew up in that world, Damien. I watched my father become something twisted and paranoid. I watched my mother drink herself to death trying to cope with it. I swore I would never let my children experience that." Damien stared at her, and for a moment something like pain flickered across his face. "Your father was weak, sloppy. I'm not him." "No," Nora agreed. "You're worse, because you're good at it, because you convinced yourself that the things you do are justified." "Everything I've done has been to build something," Damien said, "to create an empire that would last, that would mean something. Built on corpses and corruption. Built on loyalty and strength." He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. "You don't understand the world I live in." "I understand it perfectly," Nora said. "That's why I left." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Somewhere in the back room, Nora could hear the faint sound of cartoon music, and the normalcy of it made her want to scream. "I'm not giving them up," Damien said finally. "I've lost 4 years. I'm not losing another day. You don't have a choice." "There's always a choice, Nora, and I'm choosing them." "This isn't a negotiation." The window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the cafe in a glittering spray, and Nora's scream caught in her throat as she dove instinctively behind the counter. Above her head, she heard the sharp crack, crack, crack of gunfire, the thud of bullets punching into walls and furniture. Someone was shooting at them. Through the chaos, she heard Damien shouting, not in fear, but in fury. She risked a glance over the counter and saw him crouched behind an overturned table, a gun somehow already in his hand. Where had that come from? How long had he been armed? More gunfire. The front door splintered as bullets tore through it. "Marco!" Damien's voice cut through the noise. "Get them to the vehicle! Now!" The kitchen door burst open and Marco appeared, a twin tucked under each arm like footballs. The children were screaming, terrified, and the sound ripped something primal loose in Nora's chest. "No!" She lunged from behind the counter, but Damien caught her around the waist and slammed her back down. "Stay down, you idiot! Those are my children, and they'll be dead if you get in Marco's way." Damien returned fire through the broken window, and someone outside screamed, "Go! Move!" Marco kicked open the back exit and disappeared into the alley with Eli and Maya. Nora struggled against Damien's hold, but he was iron and stone, unbreakable. "Let me go! I have to!" "You have to stay alive," Damien snarled. He fired 3 more shots in rapid succession, and the gunfire from outside stopped abruptly. "Come on!" He hauled her up and toward the back door, moving with the kind of brutal efficiency that came from a lifetime of violence. Nora's feet barely touched the ground as he propelled her through the kitchen, past the shelves of supplies and the industrial ovens, out into the gray Seattle rain. A black SUV idled in the alley, engine running. Marco was already inside with the twins, and Nora saw Maya's tear-streaked face pressed against the window. Damien shoved Nora toward the vehicle, and she scrambled inside, immediately pulling both children into her arms. They were sobbing, shaking, and Nora made soothing sounds she didn't believe while Damien slid in beside her and slammed the door. "Drive," he ordered. The SUV lurched forward, tires squealing on wet pavement. Through the rear window, Nora saw figures emerging from the cafe, men in dark clothes, carrying weapons. One of them raised a rifle, and she flinched as the back window cracked, but didn't break. "Bulletproof," Damien said shortly, as if that was supposed to be reassuring. He was already on his phone. "It's me. We've been hit. The cafe on 5th and Pine, Russians, I think. Looked like Volkov's crew." A pause. "No, we're clear, but send a cleanup team." Another pause, and his eyes flicked to Nora and the children. "And prep the plane. We're leaving the city." "No," Nora said. The word came out hoarse, barely a sound. "No, we're not going anywhere with you." Damien ended the call and turned to face her. His expression was granite. "That was a coordinated attack," he said. "They knew where to find us, which means someone's been watching you. How long, I don't know. But they made their move the second I showed up, which means they knew I'd come. They were waiting." "Russians?" Nora's mind was spinning. Why would Russians attack because of me?" Damien said bluntly. "You're connected to me. The children are connected to me. That makes you targets." "We were safe before you came back." "You were invisible before I came back," Damien corrected. "There's a difference. The moment I started asking questions, started making noise about a missing woman and her children." He stopped, jaw clenching. "I led them right to you." The realization was a punch to the gut. Nora pulled the twins closer, feeling Maya's small body hiccuping with sobs, Eli's face buried in her shoulder. "This is your fault," she whispered. "Yes," Damien said, and the admission was like broken glass. "Which is why you're coming with me, all of you, until I can guarantee your safety." "I don't want your guarantees. I want you to leave us alone. That's not an option anymore." The SUV turned sharply, throwing them against the door. "They know about the children now. They know what they mean to me. Do you understand what that makes them?" Nora understood. In Damien's world, family was leverage. Children were weapons to be used against their parents. She'd seen it before, had nightmares about it. "Where are you taking us?" she asked quietly. "Somewhere they can't follow." The drive to the airstrip took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Nora held the twins the entire time, whispering reassurances she didn't believe, while Damien made call after call in a language that sounded like Italian. Beside him, Marco kept watch through the windows, a gun resting casually on his knee. When they finally pulled through a chain-link gate onto a private airfield, Nora saw the plane waiting, sleek and white, stairs already lowered. "No," she said again, more firmly this time. "Damien, we're not getting on that plane." "Yes, you are. You can't kidnap us." "I'm not kidnapping you," Damien said, and there was something almost gentle in his voice. "I'm saving you. There's a difference." "Not from where I'm sitting." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Nora saw the truth in his eyes. He wasn't going to give her a choice. Not about this. "You can fight me," he said quietly. "You can scream and struggle and make this harder for the children, or you can trust that I'm trying to keep you alive." He nodded toward Eli and Maya, who were watching with wide, frightened eyes. "What's it going to be?" It wasn't a choice. Not really. Nora unbuckled her seatbelt and lifted Maya into her arms. Eli clung to her leg as they climbed out of the SUV, and the wind off the runway whipped her hair into her face. The plane's engines were already humming, ready for takeoff. Damien placed a hand on her lower back, not forceful, just guiding, and led them toward the stairs. At the top, a flight attendant with kind eyes and a professional smile waited. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Moretti. We'll be wheels up in 5 minutes." Inside, the plane was all leather and polished wood, more like a luxury apartment than aircraft. Nora settled the twins into seats by the window, buckling them in with shaking hands. They'd stopped crying but were eerily quiet, shock settling over them like a blanket. Damien took the seat across the aisle, his phone already in his hand again. "We'll be landing in Sicily in approximately 11 hours, he said without looking up. "There's a bedroom in the back if the children need to sleep. Food in the galley." "Sicily," Nora repeated numbly. "You're taking us to Sicily." "To my family's estate. It's the most secure location I have. This is insane. This is survival." Damien finally looked at her, and his expression was carved from stone. "You can hate me for it. You probably should. But you're alive, and they're alive, and that's what matters." The plane began to taxi, and Nora gripped the armrests hard enough to make her knuckles white. Through the window, she watched Seattle disappear beneath them. The city where she'd built a life, raised her children, convinced herself she was safe. All of it gone in the space of a morning. Beside her, Eli whispered, "Mama, who is that man?" Nora looked at Damien, at the father her children didn't know, the dangerous stranger who'd just blown their quiet world apart. He was watching them too, with an expression she couldn't quite read. Hunger, maybe, or grief for time lost. She swallowed hard. "He's someone we used to know." "Is he the bad man?" Maya asked, her voice small. The question seemed to hit Damien like a physical blow. Nora saw him flinch, saw something crack behind those dark eyes. "I don't know yet, baby," Nora said, and meant it. "I don't know." The plane climbed higher, breaking through clouds into brilliant sunshine. Below them, the world they'd known receded into memory. Ahead, across an ocean and a lifetime of choices she couldn't take back, waited an island fortress and a future Nora couldn't begin to imagine. She closed her eyes and held her children close, and prayed to a God she wasn't sure she believed in anymore, that she hadn't just made the biggest mistake of her life. But deep down, in the place where mothers know things, she suspected she already had. 4 years ago, when she'd run. Because running had only ever been a delay, not an escape. And now, at 30,000 feet with nowhere left to go, Nora finally understood. You couldn't outrun the father of your children. You could only decide what kind of father he was going to be. The question was whether Damien Moretti, crime boss, killer, the most dangerous man she'd ever known, could be the kind of father who chose love over power. Or if his world would destroy them all before they got the chance to find out. The twins fell asleep somewhere over the Atlantic, their small bodies curled together in the bedroom's king-sized bed, like puppies seeking warmth. Nora sat beside them for an hour, stroking their hair and watching the rise and fall of their chests before exhaustion forced her back to the main cabin. Damien was exactly where she'd left him, seated in the leather chair with his laptop open and his phone pressed to his ear. He'd removed his jacket, and his shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms marked with old scars. He glanced up when she emerged, his eyes tracking her movement across the cabin. "They're sleeping," Nora said unnecessarily. She sank into the seat across from him, suddenly aware of how tired she was. Her hands were still shaking. Damien ended his call without saying goodbye. "You should try to rest too." "I can't." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Every time I close my eyes, I see that window exploding. I hear the gunfire." "You get used to it." The casual way he said it made something twist in her chest. "That's exactly what I was afraid of." Damien's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of scotch from the bar and slid one across to her. Nora stared at it. "I don't drink." "You do now." It wasn't quite an order, but close. "Trust me. It helps." Nora picked up the glass and took a sip. The liquor burned going down, but it did settle something in her stomach. She took another drink, longer this time. "Who were they?" she asked. "The men who attacked us. Russians, Volkov's organization." Damien swirled his own drink thoughtfully. "Mikhail Volkov runs the East Coast operations. We've been at odds for the better part of a year." "At odds," Nora repeated. "Is that what you call a gang war?" "It's what I call business." Damien's eyes were hard. "Volkov's been trying to move into my territories. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking. Things I don't allow in my city." "How noble of you." "I never claimed to be noble, Nora, but I have lines I don't cross." He set down his glass with a sharp click. "Volkov doesn't, which makes him dangerous." "And you think he'll come after the children?" "I know he will." Damien's expression was grim. "The moment my people started asking questions about you, word got out. And Volkov's smart enough to connect the dots. A woman I was involved with 4 years ago, suddenly reappearing with 5-year-old twins?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "He probably knew about them before I did." The thought made Nora's blood run cold. "You're saying he's been watching us? For how long?" "I don't know. Weeks, maybe. Long enough to set up today's ambush." Damien leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "The only reason you're alive is because I showed up when I did. If I'd waited another day, another hour..." "Don't." Nora cut him off, unable to hear the end of that sentence. "Just don't." They sat in silence for a moment, the plane's engines a constant white noise around them. Outside the window, the sky was deepening from blue to purple, sunset chasing them across the ocean. "How did you find us?" Nora asked finally. "I was so careful. New social security number, new name, paid everything in cash for the first year." "You made one mistake," Damien said. "The Café, you put it in your name. My fake name. Which you used on the business license, the lease, the utility bills." He pulled up something on his laptop and turned it toward her. "Once I had the name Nora Vance, it was easy. A simple facial recognition scan through the DMV databases, and there you were. New license photo from Washington State." Nora stared at the screen, at her own driver's license picture staring back. She looked tired in it, her hair shorter than it was now, but unmistakably her. "4 years," she whispered. "I stayed hidden for 4 years. What changed?" Damien's expression shifted into something she couldn't quite read. "I stopped looking for Nora Brennan and started looking for a woman with twins. Children born 9 months after you disappeared." He closed the laptop. "It should have occurred to me sooner, but I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to think you'd..." "Trap you?" Nora supplied bitterly. "Rob me," he corrected. "Of them. Of watching them grow. Their first words, first steps. I missed all of it because you decided I didn't deserve to know." "You didn't. That's not your call to make." The anger burst through his control, and Damien was on his feet, pacing the narrow cabin like a caged animal. "They're my children, Nora. Mine. You had no right. I had every right." Nora stood too, meeting his fury with her own. "I'm their mother. I carried them for 9 months while you were out there building your empire of blood and fear. I'm the one who was there when Eli had croup at 3 months old, and I thought he was going to die. I'm the one who held Maya through her night terrors. I'm the one who sacrificed everything to give them a normal life. Normal? Damien's laugh was sharp as broken glass. You think what happened today was normal? You think hiding and lying and looking over your shoulder for 4 years is normal? It was better than the alternative. Which was what? Letting me be their father? He moved closer, and Nora refused to back down. I would have protected them. I would have given them everything. Everything except safety, Nora said. Everything except a childhood that doesn't involve guns and bodyguards and learning to watch for threats. You don't know what I would have done, Damien said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. You never gave me the chance to prove you wrong. I know what you are, Nora said. That's enough. They stood there, inches apart, breathing hard. The cabin felt too small suddenly, the air too thin. Nora could see the pulse beating in Damien's throat, could smell the scotch on his breath mixed with that dark cologne. Why? He asked, and the single word was raw. If you hated me so much, why didn't you just tell me you were pregnant and leave anyway? Why disappear? Nora looked away. Because I knew you wouldn't let me go. Damn right I wouldn't have. Exactly. She wrapped her arms around herself again, a familiar defensive posture. You would have fought for custody, used your money, your connections, your power, and I couldn't. Her voice cracked. I couldn't risk losing them. Not to you, not to that world. So you made sure I lost them instead. The pain in his voice was unexpected, and it made something in Nora's chest ache. She'd spent 4 years telling herself she'd done the right thing, that she'd saved her children from a terrible fate. But standing here, seeing the devastation in Damien's eyes, she wondered for the first time if she'd been wrong. Not about leaving, but about not telling him. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what it's worth, I'm sorry you missed those years, but I'm not sorry for keeping them safe. They weren't safe, Damien said flatly. Today proved that. The moment I started looking for you, Volkov started looking too. And he found you first. Because of you, us. Yes, because of me. Damien's control finally snapped completely. Because I'm their father, whether you like it or not. Because my blood runs in their veins, and that makes them targets. That's the reality, Nora. You can hide from it, run from it, pretend it doesn't exist, but it's still true. They're Morettis. And Morettis have enemies. The word hung in the air between them. Morettis. The family name that came with power and danger in equal measure. They're not Morettis, Nora said. Their birth certificates say Vance. Birth certificates can be changed. Not without my permission. We'll see about that. Damien moved back to his seat, the anger banking but not extinguishing. Once the paternity test confirms what we both already know, we'll discuss custody arrangements. There's nothing to discuss. I have full custody. You have nothing, Damien said coldly. No legal standing, no documentation that would hold up in court, especially not when it comes out that you falsified records and fled the state with my children. Nora's stomach dropped. You wouldn't. Try me. They stared at each other, and Nora saw the truth in his eyes. He absolutely would. He'd use every resource, every connection, every dirty trick in his considerable arsenal to stake his claim. What do you want? She asked finally, exhausted. Joint custody? Visitation rights? I want what you stole from me, Damien said. I want to be their father, not a stranger they see on weekends, not a name on a check. I want them to know me, trust me, come to me when they're hurt or scared or happy. I want everything you've had for the past 5 years. That's not how it works, Nora said. You can't just snap your fingers and become their father overnight. They don't even know you. Then they'll learn. They're terrified of you, Nora said, and watched him flinch. Did you see their faces when Marco took them? Maya called you the bad man. That's what they think of you. Because of what you told them. I never told them anything about you. Nora's voice rose. They don't know you exist. But they have eyes, Damien. They watched you walk into our cafe with armed men. They heard the gunshots. They're 5 years old, and their entire world just got turned upside down. Do you really think forcing yourself into their lives right now is what's best for them? Damien was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. What would you suggest? I suggest you let us go home. Back to Seattle, back to our life. No. Then what? We stay in Sicily forever? They start school there? Learn Italian instead of having friends and a normal childhood? There's nothing normal about your childhood when Russians are trying to kill you, Damien said bluntly. You want them safe? This is safe. My family's estate has been standing for 300 years. The walls are 10 feet thick. The security is military grade. No one gets in or out without my permission. That sounds like a prison. That sounds like protection. Damien leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. We land in Sicily, we go to the estate, and we wait until I've neutralized the Volkov threat. Could be days. Could be weeks. But until I'm certain you're all safe, no one leaves. And then what? And then we figure out what comes next. His eyes held hers. Together. For their sake. Nora wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but the exhaustion was winning. I need to check on them. Wait. Damien's voice stopped her halfway to the bedroom. There's something else you should know about Sicily. What now? My family is there. My mother, my sister. They don't know about the twins yet. Nora's eyes widened. You didn't tell them? I wanted to be sure first. Wanted the paternity test. Wanted... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. I wanted to meet them before I claimed them, to know they were real. They're real, Nora said quietly, whether you believe it or not. I believe it. Damien's voice was rough. I looked at them, and I knew. But my mother, she's going to have questions. Lots of questions. About where they've been, why she didn't know, why you disappeared. What are you going to tell her? The truth. That you ran because you were scared. He met her eyes. That I gave you reason to be scared. The admission surprised her. You're not going to blame me? Oh, I blame you, Damien said. But I also know what I am. What my life looks like from the outside. If I were you, I probably would have run too. It was the closest thing to understanding she'd heard from him since he'd walked into her cafe, and it made Nora's throat tight. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. My mother's going to want to meet them, get to know them, and she's... He paused. Intense. About family. What does that mean? It means she's going to love them immediately and completely, Damien said. And she's going to hate you for keeping them from her. So prepare yourself for that. Nora nodded numbly and headed for the bedroom. Inside, the twins were still asleep, their faces peaceful in the dim light. She crawled onto the bed between them and pulled them close, breathing in their familiar scent of children's shampoo and innocence. In the main cabin, she heard Damien making another call. His voice was low and intense, speaking rapid Italian. She caught a few words, bambini, sicurezza, familia, but not enough to understand the full conversation. She must have dozed off, because the next thing she knew, Maya was shaking her shoulder. Mama, I'm hungry. Nora blinked awake, disoriented. The plane was darker now, only a few lights still on. Okay, baby, let's find you something to eat. In the galley, she found crackers, cheese, fruit. She made the twins' plates and settled them at the small table while she heated up pasta from the refrigerator. Behind her, she felt Damien watching. There's chicken in there too, he said, if they prefer. They like pasta, Nora said shortly. Eli looked up at the sound of Damien's voice, his dark eyes wary. Are we still on the airplane? Yes, Nora said. We're going on a trip. To where? Maya asked. Damien stepped closer, and Nora tensed, but he just knelt down to the twins' eye level. To Sicily. It's an island in Italy. Have you heard of Italy? Both children shook their heads. It's where my family comes from, Damien said. Where I grew up. It's very beautiful. There are orange trees and olive groves and a big house with lots of rooms to explore. Is it bigger than our house? Eli asked. Much bigger, with a garden and a fountain and even horses. Maya's eyes widened. Real horses? Very real. Would you like to see them when we get there? Yes! Maya's fear seemed to have evaporated in the face of the promise of horses. Can we ride them? If your mother says it's okay. Damien glanced at Nora and she saw the challenge in his eyes. See? I can be gentle. I can make them smile. We'll see, Nora said neutrally. Eat your dinner first. The twins dug into their pasta while Damien stood and moved back to give them space. But Nora noticed he stayed close enough to watch them, his expression unguarded for once. There was wonder there, and something that looked like grief. "They look like you," Nora said quietly, surprising herself. "They look like my father," Damien said. "He had those eyes, that stubborn chin." A pause. "He died when I was 12. I'm sorry." "Don't be. He was a hard man, but he loved his children fiercely, would have done anything to protect us." Damien's eyes met hers. "I understand that now, what it means to have something so precious you'd burn the world down to keep it safe." Nora's breath caught. "Damien, I'm not trying to take them from you," he said. "I'm trying to keep all of you alive. There's a difference." "Is there?" Nora asked. "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like the same thing." Before Damien could answer, turbulence hit. The plane shuddered, and Maya's fork clattered to the floor. She let out a small cry, and instantly Damien was there, his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he said. "Just some bumpy air. The pilot will fly around it." "I don't like it," Maya whispered. "I know, but you're safe. I promise." He looked at Eli, who was gripping the table edge. "You too, tough guy. Nothing's going to hurt you. Not while I'm here." The turbulence passed, but Damien stayed close, his presence somehow steadying, and Nora watched her children slowly relax, watched them start to trust this stranger who claimed to be their father. It terrified her. Not because she thought Damien would hurt them, but because she could see it already. The way Eli was watching him with curiosity instead of fear, the way Maya had let him comfort her. They were resilient, adaptive, ready to accept this new reality, and Nora was still fighting it with everything she had. The plane landed in Sicily just after dawn, the sun rising over mountains that glowed gold and amber. A convoy of black cars waited on the private airstrip, and more men in dark suits who looked at Damien with a mixture of respect and fear. "Welcome home, boss," one of them said in accented English. "The family is waiting." Damien nodded and turned to Nora, who was carrying a sleeping Maya, while Eli clung to her hand. "This way." The drive through the Sicilian countryside was beautiful, despite Nora's exhaustion. They passed vineyards and ancient stone walls, villages that looked unchanged for centuries. The twins pressed their faces to the windows, pointing at sheep and goats, and asking endless questions. "Are we really going to live in a castle?" Eli asked. "It's not a castle," Damien said. "Just a very old house." "How old?" "About 300 years. "That's older than dinosaurs." Despite everything, Damien smiled. "Not quite that old." The estate appeared around a final curve, a sprawling villa of honey-colored stone with terracotta roof tiles and gardens that seemed to go on forever. It was beautiful and imposing in equal measure, and Nora's heart sank. This wasn't a house. It was a fortress. The cars stopped in the circular drive, and before Damien could even open the door, a woman emerged from the villa. She was in her 60s, elegant in a simple black dress, her dark hair threaded with silver. Her eyes, the same deep brown as Damien's, went wide when she saw the twins. "Damiano," she breathed, "you said you had news, but I never imagined—" "Mama." Damien helped Nora out of the car, steadying her when she stumbled. "This is Nora Vance, and these are—" He paused, and Nora saw him struggle with the words. "These are my children, Eli and Maya." The woman's hand went to her mouth. For a moment, she just stared. Then she was moving, crossing the drive in quick steps, and Nora instinctively pulled the twins behind her. "Don't," the woman said, stopping short. "Please, I'm not going to hurt them. I just—" Her voice cracked. "May I?" Nora looked at Damien, who nodded. Slowly, she stepped aside. Damien's mother knelt in front of the twins, tears streaming down her face. "Hello, little ones. I'm your grandmother, your nonna. Do you know what that means?" Both children shook their heads. "It means I'm your papa's mama, and I've been waiting to meet you for your whole lives, even though I didn't know you existed until 5 minutes ago." She laughed through her tears. "You're so beautiful, both of you." "You're crying," Maya said, sounding worried. "Happy tears, tesoro. The happiest tears." She reached out slowly, giving them time to pull away, and when they didn't, she pulled them both into a fierce embrace. Over their heads, her eyes met Nora's, and the warmth vanished. "You," she said, and the single word was ice. You did this. You kept them from us. Mama, Damien warned. Don't! His mother stood, still holding the twins' hands. Don't defend her. Not for this. There will be time for explanations later, Damien said. Right now, everyone needs rest. It's been a long night. Of course. The warmth returned when she looked at the twins. Come, Bambini, let me show you your rooms. We have toys and books and anything you could want. She led them toward the villa, chattering in a mix of English and Italian, and Nora moved to follow, but Damien caught her arm. Let them go, he said. My mother won't hurt them, and we need to talk. About what? About what happens next. His grip was gentle but unyielding, because things are about to get complicated. More complicated than being kidnapped and flown to Sicily? Much more. Damien's expression was grim. I just got word Volkov knows we're here, and he's sent a message. Nora's blood went cold. What message? Damien pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. It was grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. 2 children playing in a Seattle cafe, her children, and beneath the photo, a single line of text. Trade offer. Your brother for your heirs. You have 48 hours. Nora's knees went weak. Your brother? I thought you said he was dead. The car accident 3 years ago. I thought he was 2, Damien said, his voice rough. But apparently, Volkov had other plans. He's been holding Luca this whole time, waiting for the right leverage. And now he has it, Nora whispered. The twins. He thinks he has it. Damien's jaw clenched. But he's made a critical error. What's that? Damien looked toward the villa, where his children had just disappeared inside. When he turned back to Nora, his eyes were black fire. He thinks I'll choose my brother over my children. He doesn't understand that I'd burn this whole world to ash before I let anyone take them from me again. He stepped closer. So, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to set a trap, draw Volkov out, and I'm going to end this war once and for all. And us? Nora asked. What happens to us while you're out there starting your war? You stay here, where it's safe, where my mother and my men can protect you. In a prison, you mean? In a sanctuary, Damien corrected, for as long as it takes. He walked away before she could argue, already pulling out his phone to make more calls. And Nora stood there in the Sicilian dawn, watching the sun rise over the mountains, and wondered how her quiet life had turned into a nightmare. Inside the villa, she could hear her children's laughter as Damien's mother showed them some treasure or another. Normal sounds, happy sounds. But outside these walls, men with guns were planning their deaths. And somewhere in a cell or a cage, Damien's brother was waiting for a rescue that might never come. Because Nora knew, even if Damien wouldn't admit it yet, that this wasn't a choice between his brother and his children. It was a choice between family and survival. And in Damien Moretti's world, there was only ever one answer. The villa's security vault was buried 3 stories beneath the wine cellar, accessible only through a biometric scanner and a code that changed hourly. Damien led Nora down the stone stairs 2 days after they'd arrived, his hand on her lower back more out of habit than affection. This is where you'll take the children if anything happens, he said, pushing open the reinforced steel door. Inside was a room roughly 20 by 20 feet, lined with monitors showing every angle of the estate. There were beds, supplies, communications equipment, everything needed to survive a siege. You're serious, Nora said, her voice hollow. You actually think it could come to this? I think Volkov is desperate, and desperate men do desperate things. Damien showed her how to work the security panel. The code is your birthday plus the twins' birthday, 6 digits total. Can you remember that? Month and day? Yes, no year. He watched her punch it in, watched the light turn green. Good. If the alarm sounds, you get Eli and Maya, and you run straight here. Don't stop for anything. Don't look back. Just run. What about your mother? Your sister? They know the protocol. They'll either be here already or they'll find their own shelter. Damien's jaw was tight. I need to know you can do this, Nora. I need to know that if everything goes to hell, you'll protect them. Of course I will. They're my children. They're our children, Damien corrected, and the possessiveness in his voice made her skin prickle. And I need them safe. All of you safe. He'd been like this since they arrived, oscillating between cold strategist and something almost tender when he watched the twins play. That morning, Nora had found him in the garden with Eli, teaching the boy how to skip stones across the fountain. The image had been so jarringly normal that she'd almost forgotten where they were, what they were running from. Almost. "How much time do we have?" she asked. "Volkov's deadline is tomorrow at noon." Damien closed the vault door, testing it. "But I'm not waiting for him to make the first move. Tonight, we end this." "We?" Nora's eyes widened. "You're not seriously including me in whatever insane plan you've concocted." "You're already included," Damien said. "You've been included since the moment I walked into your cafe. The question is whether you want to be active or passive in what comes next. I want to take my children and go home. That's not an option." "Everything is an option." Nora's frustration boiled over. "You keep saying we're here for protection, but all I see are armed guards and security measures and plans for violence. This isn't protecting them, Damien. This is making them targets." "They were always targets," Damien said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "The moment they were conceived, they became leverage against me. You can hate that reality all you want, but it doesn't change it." "Then what are we supposed to do? Live like this forever? Locked in a fortress, waiting for the next attack?" "No." Damien moved closer, and Nora held her ground even though every instinct told her to retreat. "We eliminate the threat, permanently." "You mean kill him?" "I mean remove him from the equation." Damien's eyes were black fire. "Volkov has my brother. He's threatening my children. There's only one way this ends." "And what about Luca? Your mother's been crying for 2 days straight, thinking her son might actually be alive. And you're planning to what? Storm in and hope he doesn't get caught in the crossfire?" Something flickered across Damien's face, too quick to read. "I'm working on that." "Working on it?" Nora repeated incredulously. "Your brother's life is hanging in the balance and you're working on it? What would you have me do?" Damien's control was fraying now, his voice rising. "Trade the twins? Hand them over to a man who would use them, hurt them, destroy them just to hurt me? Is that what a good father would do? A good father wouldn't have put them in this situation in the first place." The words hung between them like a thrown blade. Damien's expression went cold, shuddered, and he turned toward the stairs without another word. "Wait," Nora said, immediately regretting it. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." He didn't look back. "And you're right. This is my fault. All of it. But I'm going to fix it, Nora, even if it costs me everything." He left her standing in the vault, surrounded by monitors and steel and the promise of violence, and Nora sank onto one of the beds with her head in her hands. Upstairs, she found the twins in the library with Damien's mother, Isabella. The older woman was reading to them in Italian, her voice melodic and soothing, and both children were entranced. They'd taken to her immediately, calling her Nonna and climbing into her lap like they'd known her all their lives. It should have made Nora happy. Instead, it felt like another piece of their old life slipping away. "Mama!" Maya spotted her and ran over. "Nonna is teaching us words. I can say butterfly in Italian." "Farfalla," Eli added proudly. "That's wonderful, baby." Nora smoothed Maya's hair, trying to smile. "Why don't you two keep reading? I need to talk to Nonna for a minute." Isabella followed her into the hall, her expression cooling the moment they were out of the children's earshot. She'd been polite but distant with Nora, and the tension between them was thick enough to cut. "They're beautiful children," Isabella said. "Smart, kind. You've done well with them." "Thank you." Despite depriving them of their family, the words were delivered calmly, but they landed like stones. Despite making my son believe his children didn't exist, despite letting me mourn grandchildren I never knew I had. Nora's throat tightened. "I did what I thought was right." "For whom? For them or for yourself?" Isabella's dark eyes were sharp. "Did you think about what you were taking from them? A father, grandparents, cousins? A legacy that goes back generations?" "I thought about keeping them alive," Nora said quietly. "I thought about them growing up without bullet holes in their walls and armed guards at their school. I thought about them having a chance at normal." "Normal," Isabella repeated, and laughed bitterly. "There is no normal for a Moretti. There never has been. We are who we are, and we survive by being stronger than our enemies. You can't change that by pretending it doesn't exist. I can try. And look where it got you. Isabella gestured to the villa around them. Running for your life, hiding in my son's fortress, while men with guns plan to take those children you fought so hard to protect. The truth of it made Nora's eyes burn. What would you have done? If you'd known what Damien was, what his life would be like, would you have chosen differently? Isabella was quiet for a long moment. I knew what my husband was when I married him. I knew the risks, the danger, but I also knew he would die before he let harm come to his family. And he did. Her voice broke slightly. He died protecting Damiano and his siblings from a rival family's attack. Damiano was 12 years old, and he watched his father bleed out on the floor of our old villa. Nora hadn't known that. Damien had mentioned his father's death, but not the details. After that, Damiano became the man of the family, Isabella continued. He took over the business at 19. He made hard choices, did terrible things, all to keep us safe and fed and powerful. So when you tell me you kept those children from him because of what he is, what I hear is that you didn't trust him to do what he's always done. Protect the people he loves. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Isabella's eyes flashed. You didn't trust him. And instead of giving him a chance to prove himself, you ran. You took away his right to choose what kind of father he wanted to be. The accusation hit harder than Nora expected because somewhere deep down she knew it was true. She'd been so certain she was right, so convinced that Damien would corrupt their children just by existing in their lives, that she'd never considered he might surprise her. I was scared, she whispered. And you're still scared, Isabella said. But fear is not an excuse for theft. And make no mistake, what you did was theft. You stole years from my son, from me, from those beautiful children who deserve to know their family. I know, Nora said, and her voice cracked. I know, and I'm sorry, but I can't go back and change it. All I can do is try to protect them now. Then trust Damiano to do the same. Isabella's expression softened slightly. He's not perfect. None of us are. But he loves those children with everything he has, and he will not let them be hurt, even if it means sacrificing himself. Before Nora could respond, an alarm pierced the air, loud, insistent, making her heart leap into her throat. What is that? She asked, but Isabella was already moving, her face gone pale. The perimeter alarm. Someone's breached the outer wall. She grabbed Nora's arm. Go, get the children. Now. Take them to the vault. But Damien said, now. Isabella's voice cracked like a whip, and Nora ran. She burst into the library, scooping up Maya while reaching for Eli's hand. We have to go, babies, right now. What's happening? Eli asked, his face frightened. It's just a drill, Nora lied, already moving toward the hall. Remember that special room Damien showed you? We're going to go there and play a game. But the gunfire that erupted outside was no game. The windows shattered in an explosion of glass and bullets, and Nora screamed, throwing herself over the children. Around her, the library disintegrated, books torn apart, furniture splintering, paintings falling from walls and shredded canvas. Go! Isabella appeared behind them, a gun in her hand that looked surreal against her elegant black dress. I'll cover you! Nora didn't wait. She ran, carrying Maya and dragging Eli, while behind them Isabella returned fire with the calm precision of someone who'd done this before. The hallway seemed endless, the stairs to the cellar impossibly far, and all around them the villa was under assault. Men were shouting in Russian. More gunfire, an explosion that shook the walls. Mama, I'm scared, Maya sobbed against her shoulder. I know, baby. Just hold on tight. They reached the cellar stairs and Nora practically fell down them, her ankle twisting but adrenaline keeping her upright. The wine racks flashed past, and then the hidden door to the vault, and she punched in the code with shaking fingers. Wrong. Red light. No, no, no! She tried again, forcing herself to focus. Her birthday, the twins' birthday. 6 digits. Green light. The door swung open. Get in, Isabella said from behind them, blood running from a cut on her temple. Quickly! Nora pushed the children inside and turned to help Isabella, but the older woman shook her head. I have to find my daughter. Sophia is still upstairs. You can't go back out there. They're my children, Isabella said simply. All of them. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Damiano. She was gone before Nora could protest, disappearing back up the stairs at a run, and Nora was left alone with two terrified 5-year-olds in a vault that suddenly felt like a tomb. She locked the door and gathered the twins onto one of the beds, holding them close while they cried. On the monitors, she could see the carnage unfolding above them, armed men in tactical gear swarming the villa, Damien's guards fighting back, falling, dying. It was chaos and violence and everything she'd tried to protect her children from. "Where's Papa?" Eli asked through his tears, and the word made Nora's heart stop. "What did you call him?" "Papa. That's what Nonna said we should call him. Is he okay? Is he going to die like the men on the TV?" Nora looked at the monitors and realized Eli was watching the security feed, watching men get shot and fall. She quickly covered his eyes, but the damage was done. "He's not going to die," she said, hoping it was true. "Your papa is very strong. He'll be okay." "Promise?" Nora had never made a promise she was less sure of keeping. "I promise." The attack seemed to last hours, but was probably only minutes. Nora watched on the screens as Damien's men fought with desperate efficiency, as Isabella and a young woman who must be Sophia barricaded themselves in an upper room as bodies fell on both sides. And then, impossibly, the Russian forces began to retreat. "They're leaving," Nora whispered. "Why are they leaving?" She got her answer when a new figure appeared on the monitors. Damien, moving through the villa like a force of nature, a gun in each hand. He wasn't retreating. He was advancing, and behind him came more men, reinforcements, who drove the Russians back through the shattered windows and out into the night. It was over almost as quickly as it began. Nora waited, counting her heartbeats, until she heard the vault door's access panel beep. She looked at the monitor showing the entrance and saw Damien standing there, covered in blood and smoke, his face a mask of controlled fury. She opened the door. "Are you hurt?" he asked immediately, his hands on her face, her shoulders checking for injuries. "No, we're fine. The children are fine." "My mother? Sophia?" "Alive, I think." Isabella went to find Sophia during the attack. Damien closed his eyes briefly, relief flickering across his features. Then he was moving past her to the twins, kneeling in front of them with an intensity that made them both flinch. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Did anyone hurt you?" They shook their heads, and Damien pulled them both into his arms, holding them so tightly Nora thought he might break them. Over their heads, his eyes met hers. "This was a probe," he said quietly. "Testing our defenses. The real attack is still coming." "What?" "No, you said you'd end this tonight." "I will." Damien released the children and stood. "But Volkov just proved he knows where we are, which means we can't stay here." "Where are we supposed to go?" "Somewhere he won't expect." Damien was already on his phone, issuing rapid orders in Italian. "Pack light. We leave in 20 minutes. "Damien!" 20 minutes, Nora. That's all we have." He left before she could argue, and Nora gathered the twins and what few belongings they'd brought. Upstairs, the villa was a war zone. Broken glass everywhere, bullet holes in the walls, blood on the marble floors. Isabella and Sophia were in the kitchen, both alive but shaken, Isabella pressing a cloth to her daughter's arm where a bullet had grazed her. "You're leaving," Isabella said. It wasn't a question. "Damien thinks it's not safe here anymore." "He's right." Isabella looked around at the destruction. This was our sanctuary for 300 years, and in one night they violated it, showed us we're not untouchable. "I'm sorry," Nora said. "This is because of us, because of the twins." "This is because of Volkov," Sophia corrected. She was younger than Nora had expected, maybe 25, with Damien's dark eyes and their mother's cheekbones. Don't take responsibility for a madman's actions. Outside, engines roared to life. Damien appeared in the doorway, now wearing tactical gear and carrying more weapons than should be legal. "We have to go, now." The convoy that waited was smaller than before, just 3 vehicles. Damien put Nora and the twins in the middle car with Marco driving, while he took the lead vehicle. Isabella and Sophia stayed behind with the remaining guards to secure what was left of the villa. As they drove away, Nora watched the ancient estate disappear into the darkness and wondered if they'd ever see it again, or if everything Damien's family had built was burning down because of her choices 4 years ago. "Where are we going?" she asked Marco. The old lighthouse, he said. On the north coast. It's remote. Defensible. And empty, Nora guessed. No backup if something goes wrong. Marco's silence was answer enough. They drove for hours through the Sicilian night, leaving the manicured roads for dirt tracks that wound through olive groves and rocky hills. The twins fell asleep against Nora's shoulders, exhausted from fear and adrenaline, and she envied them the escape. The lighthouse appeared just before dawn, a solitary tower of weathered stone standing on a cliff above the crashing sea. It looked abandoned, possibly for decades, and Nora's heart sank. This is your safe house? It's temporary, Damien said, helping her out of the car. Just until I can draw Volkov out and end this. How are you going to do that when he knows where we are? He doesn't. Damien's smile was sharp. He knows where the villa is, but this place, this is off the books. My father bought it years ago as a fallback position. Only family knows it exists. Inside, the lighthouse was surprisingly well maintained. Someone had clearly been keeping it up. There was furniture, running water, even electricity from a generator. Damien settled the twins in a bedroom on the second floor while Nora explored the small kitchen. There's food, she called down, and supplies. How long are we supposed to stay here? As long as it takes. Damien came down the spiral stairs, his footsteps echoing. I've sent word to Volkov that I'm willing to negotiate, to discuss terms for Luca's release. You're going to trade yourself, Nora said, understanding flooding through her. You're going to offer yourself in exchange for your brother. Not exactly. Damien pulled out a map and spread it on the kitchen table. I'm going to make him think I'm trading myself. Set up a meeting at neutral ground. And when he shows up, you'll ambush him. I'll end him. Damien's finger stabbed at a point on the map. This warehouse, on the docks in Palermo. Plenty of cover, multiple exits, and far enough from civilians that collateral damage won't be an issue. You're talking about starting a war. I'm talking about finishing one. Damien looked up at her. Volkov has to die, Nora. There's no other way. As long as he's alive, he'll keep coming after the twins, after you, after everyone I love. And what about Luca? What if he's really there? What if you go in guns blazing and your brother gets caught in the crossfire? Then I'll have failed him, Damien said quietly. But I won't fail them. He nodded toward the stairs, toward where the twins slept. I can't protect everyone, Nora. I learned that a long time ago, so I'm choosing them, even if it costs me my brother. The rawness of the admission made Nora's throat tight. Damien, I need you to promise me something, he interrupted. If this goes wrong, if I don't come back, I need you to take the children and run. Marco has papers for all of you, new identities, bank accounts, everything you need to disappear. I'm not leaving you to die. You will, if it means they survive. His hands gripped her shoulders. Promise me, Nora. Whatever happens, you protect them, even from me, even from my choices. I promise, she whispered, and hated herself for meaning it. Damien released her and stepped back, already pulling out his phone to make more calls. And Nora sank into a chair, watching the sun rise over the Mediterranean, and wondered how many more sunrises they had left. Upstairs, she heard the twins stirring, heard Eli calling for her in a voice made small by fear. She climbed the spiral stairs and found them both awake, holding each other in the narrow bed. Mama, I had a bad dream, Maya said. Me too, Eli added. Nora crawled in beside them, fitting her body around theirs like a shield. Do you want to tell me about it? The bad men came, Maya whispered, and they took Papa away. And we never saw him again. That's not going to happen, Nora said, hoping it was true. How do you know? Because your father is the most dangerous man I've ever met, Nora thought. Because he would burn the world down before he let anyone take you from him. Because despite everything, despite my fears and my mistakes, I'm starting to believe he might actually love you. Because I know your papa, she said instead, and he always keeps his promises. She held them until they fell back asleep, and then she went to the window and looked out at the lighthouse grounds. Damien was outside, pacing while he talked on the phone, and even from this distance she could see the tension in his shoulders. He was preparing for war, and in less than 24 hours, he would either save his family or destroy it, trying. Nora pressed her hand to the cold glass and made a different promise, not to Damien, but to herself. If he fell, she would pick up the pieces. She would take the children and run and give them the life she'd always dreamed of. She would erase Damien Moretti from their memories and make sure they never knew what they'd lost. But in her heart, she knew it was a lie, because the twins were already calling him Papa. They'd already let him into their hearts with the easy acceptance of children who didn't understand betrayal. And if Damien died tomorrow, they would remember, they would grieve, and they would become exactly what she'd been trying to prevent, children shaped by violence and loss, and the endless cycle of revenge. The irony wasn't lost on her. In running from Damien's world, she'd guaranteed her children would never escape it. The plan was supposed to be simple. Damien would meet Volkov at the warehouse at midnight, convince him the trade was real, and when the Russians' guard was down, the trap would spring. Damien's men were already in position around the docks, hidden in the shadows with enough firepower to level the building if necessary. Simple, clean, final. But standing in the lighthouse kitchen at 11 o'clock that night, watching Damien strap on body armor and check his weapons, Nora felt anything but certain. "You don't have to do this," she said for the 10th time. "We could run, take the children and disappear. You said you had papers." "And Volkov would find us," Damien interrupted, his voice flat. "Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but eventually. And the next time I might not be there to stop him." He holstered a gun at his hip, another at his ankle. "This ends tonight. Or you end tonight." Damien looked up at her then, and something softened in his expression. "If I don't come back, don't," Nora said, her voice breaking. "Don't say goodbye. Not like this. I have to." He crossed to her, his hands cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "Because I need you to understand something. Everything I've done, every choice I've made since I found you, it's been for them, to give them a chance at the life you wanted for them." "By starting a war?" "By ending one." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "I know you hate what I am, what I do, but this is the only language men like Volkov understand, the only way to make them stop." "And what about Luca? What if he's really there?" Damien's jaw clenched. "Then I save him if I can. But if I have to choose between my brother and my children, there is no choice. There was never any choice." The certainty in his voice made Nora's chest ache. "Your mother will never forgive you." "I know." He released her and stepped back, checking his watch. "I have to go. Marco is staying here with you and the twins. If you don't hear from me by dawn—" "We run," Nora finished. "I know." Damien nodded and headed for the door, but Nora's voice stopped him. "Damien, wait!" He turned and Nora crossed the space between them before she could think better of it. She went up on her toes and pressed her lips to his. A brief, desperate kiss that tasted like fear and goodbye, and all the words they'd never said to each other. When she pulled back, Damien's eyes were dark and unreadable. "Come back," she whispered. "Please. They need you." "Just them?" The question hung in the air between them, weighted with 4 years of running and regret. Nora opened her mouth to answer, but Damien shook his head. "Don't," he said softly. "Don't say something you'll regret in the morning." He left before she could respond, and Nora stood in the doorway watching his taillights disappear down the coastal road. The night was clear and cold, the lighthouse beam cutting through the darkness in steady sweeps, and she had never felt more alone. Marco found her still standing there 10 minutes later. "You should get some sleep," he said. "Long night ahead." "I can't sleep." Nora wrapped her arms around herself. "Not while he's out there. Boss knows what he's doing." "Does he?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like he's walking into a trap." Nora turned to face Marco. "You've worked for him a long time. Is he always like this? Always so willing to throw himself into danger?" Marco considered the question. "Mr. Moretti is, complicated. But I've never seen him hesitate when family is involved. He'd die for the people he loves. That's both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. And Volkov knows that." "Which is why the boss is being careful," Marco said, but his eyes said he was worried too. "Come inside, I'll make coffee. It's going to be a long wait." The twins were still sleeping upstairs, oblivious to the danger their father was walking into. Nora checked on them twice in the first hour, unable to stop herself from making sure they were still breathing, still safe. The second time, Eli woke up. "Mama?" His voice was small in the darkness. "Where's Papa?" The question shouldn't have surprised her, but it did. In less than a week, Damien had gone from stranger to Papa in their eyes. The shift had been so gradual, Nora hadn't noticed it happening until now. "He had to go out for a little while," she said, smoothing Eli's dark hair. "But he'll be back soon." "Is he fighting the bad men?" Nora's breath caught. "What makes you think that?" "I heard him talking on the phone. He sounded angry." Eli's eyes were too knowing for a 5-year-old, like when someone wants to hurt us. "No one is going to hurt you," Nora promised. "Your papa won't let that happen." "I know." Eli's certainty was absolute. "Papa is the strongest. Nona said so. She said he protects everyone." Nora thought about Damien walking into that warehouse, outnumbered and outgunned, betting everything on a plan that required perfect timing and perfect luck. She thought about Luca, if he was even still alive, waiting for a rescue that might never come. She thought about Isabella's face when Damien told her he was choosing the twins over her son. "Yes," she said quietly. "He does." She stayed with Eli until he fell back asleep, then returned downstairs where Marco was monitoring communications. The radio crackled periodically with check-ins from Damien's men positioned around the warehouse. But there was no word from Damien himself. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m., 2. At 2:30, the radio erupted with gunfire and shouting. "Contact! Multiple hostiles! North entrance compromised! Where's the boss? Anyone have eyes on the boss?" Marco was on his feet, barking orders into the radio, trying to coordinate from miles away. Nora stood frozen, listening to the chaos, her heart in her throat. Fall back to secondary positions. We've got men down, need medical. The building's rigged. They've got explosives." And then, cutting through everything else, a voice Nora recognized. Damien's voice, rough with pain but unmistakably alive. "Get everyone out, now. The whole thing's coming down." "Boss, we can't leave you, but that's an order. Get clear." The explosion came through the radio as a roar of static and screaming, then silence. "Damien!" Nora grabbed the radio from Marco's hand. "Damien, answer me." Nothing. "We lost the signal," Marco said, already moving toward the door. "I have to go. I have to get to him." "No." Nora caught his arm. "You have to stay here, with the children. That's what he'd want." "Miss Vance, please." Her voice broke. "If something's happened to him, if Volkov's people are coming here next, the twins need protection, and you're all they have." Marco's face was torn, but finally he nodded. "I'll stay, but I'm calling in backup. Every man we have." He made the calls while Nora paced, her mind racing through terrible possibilities. Damien was dead. Damien was captured. Damien was hurt and bleeding out in the ruins of that warehouse while she stood here, helpless, miles away. The radio crackled back to life at 3 a.m. "Marco, you there?" "Boss!" Marco's relief was palpable. "We thought the explosion." "I'm alive, barely." Damien's breathing was labored. "But we've got a problem. Volkov wasn't at the warehouse. It was a setup." He sent his lieutenant with 12 men and enough C4 to level the block. "Where is he?" "That's the problem. According to the lieutenant, and he was very cooperative once we convinced him to talk, Volkov's on his way to the lighthouse." The words took a moment to register. When they did, Nora felt the blood drain from her face. "How?" Marco demanded. "No one knows about this location. Someone talked." Damien's voice was grim. "Or someone followed us. Either way, he knows where you are, and he's bringing an army." "How long do we have?" 20 minutes. Maybe less." A pause, heavy with meaning. "Get them out, Marco. Get Nora and the children out now." "There's nowhere to go," Marco said, looking around the isolated lighthouse. "We're on a cliff. The only road is the way they'll be coming." "Then go over the cliff." Nora's eyes widened. "What?" "There's a path," Damien said quickly, "on the north side of the lighthouse, carved into the rock. It leads down to a cove where my father used to keep a boat. The boat's probably gone, but there are caves. Hide there until I can get to you." "Damien, that path hasn't been used in years. It's the only chance you've got." His voice turned fierce. "Do it, Marco. Get them to the caves and keep them alive. I'm 10 minutes behind you, but if Volkov gets there first—" He didn't need to finish. They all knew what would happen. Marco was already gathering supplies, shoving water bottles and emergency supplies into a backpack. "We move now. Wake the children." Nora ran upstairs and scooped up both twins, jarring them awake. "We have to go, babies, right now." "Mama, what's wrong?" Maya's eyes were huge with fear. "Nothing, sweetheart. We're just going on an adventure. But we have to be very quiet and very fast." She carried Maya while Eli stumbled along beside her, still half asleep. Marco led them out the back of the lighthouse to where the cliff dropped away into darkness. The path he'd mentioned was barely visible, a narrow trail of crumbling stone that switched back down the cliff face, with nothing but a rusted chain bolted into the rock for safety. "You can't be serious," Nora breathed. "We can't take children down there in the dark." "We don't have a choice." Marco clipped a flashlight to his belt. "I'll go first. You follow with the girl. The boy can hold on to your jacket. Marco, Miss Vance, they're coming. We're out of time." As if to punctuate his words, headlights appeared on the coastal road. Multiple vehicles, moving fast. "Go," Nora whispered. "Go now." Marco started down the path, testing each foothold before committing his weight. Nora followed with Maya clinging to her like a koala, her small arms wrapped around Nora's neck in a death grip. Behind her, Eli held onto her jacket with both hands, his breathing quick and scared. The path was treacherous, crumbling in places, slick with sea spray in others. The wind whipped around them, trying to tear them from the cliff face, and below, the Mediterranean crashed against the rocks with a sound like thunder. The lighthouse beam swept overhead, briefly illuminating their descent before plunging them back into darkness. "Don't look down," Nora told the twins, even as she made the mistake of glancing down herself. The drop was easily 100 feet, straight onto jagged rocks and churning water. One slip, one loose stone, and they would all fall. Above them, car doors slammed, voices shouted in Russian, then gunfire, sharp cracks that echoed off the cliff. "They're shooting at the lighthouse," Marco said. "Keep moving." Nora's arms were screaming with the effort of carrying Maya and maintaining her balance on the narrow path. Eli was crying softly behind her, terrified but trying to be brave. They were maybe halfway down when she heard new voices above them, closer, right at the cliff edge. "There! On the path!" More gunfire, but shooting down at a steep angle in the dark made accuracy nearly impossible. Bullets sparked off the rocks around them, ricocheting into the void, and Maya screamed. "Almost there," Marco called up. "Just a little further." The cove appeared below them, a small crescent of sand protected by towering rock formations. The boat Damien had mentioned was indeed gone, but the caves he'd described were visible as darker shadows in the cliff face. They reached the bottom with Nora's legs shaking so badly she could barely stand, and Marco immediately herded them toward the largest cave. Inside it was pitch black and smelled of salt and fish and old fear. Marco positioned them at the back and took up a defensive position at the entrance, his gun drawn. "Will they come down?" Nora whispered. "I don't know. Maybe." He checked his weapon. "But if they do, they'll have to come one at a time on that path. I can hold them off." "For how long?" Marco didn't answer, which was answer enough. Nora held the twins close, their small bodies trembling against hers. Above, she could hear more shouting, the sounds of a search being organized. Any minute now, someone would start down that path. And then what? Marco would shoot them. They would shoot back. The cave would become a tomb. "Mama, I'm scared," Eli whispered. "I know, baby. Me too." "Where's Papa? Why isn't he here?" "He's coming," Nora said, and prayed it was true. "He's coming as fast as he can." Minutes crawled by like hours. The twins were silent now, too frightened even to cry. Nora could hear her own heartbeat, loud in the darkness, and the distant crash of waves, and somewhere above, the methodical sounds of men preparing to kill them. Then a new sound cut through everything else, the roar of an engine, powerful and close. A vehicle sliding to a stop above them with a screech of tires. More shouting, but different this time. Surprised, alarmed, and then gunfire, heavy and sustained. "That's the boss," Marco said with certainty. "He's here." The battle above them was brief and brutal. Damien had arrived with reinforcements, and the element of surprise was on his side. Nora could hear men screaming, orders being shouted, the distinctive crack of Damien's voice cutting through the chaos. Then silence. "Marco!" Damien's voice echoed down the cliff. "You down there?" "We're here, boss, all safe." "Volkov?" "Escaped. Took one of the vehicles and ran when you showed up." Damien cursed, the word carrying clearly in the still air. "Stay there. I'm coming down." He descended the path with the reckless speed of someone who'd done it 1,000 times, and when he reached the cave entrance, he was bleeding from a cut above his eye and favoring his left side. But he was alive. The twins saw him and ran, throwing themselves at him with cries of "Papa!" that made Damien's knees buckle. He caught them, held them, buried his face in their hair. "I've got you," he murmured. "You're safe. I've got you." Over their heads, his eyes found Nora's. The relief in them was so profound it made her chest ache. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head, not trusting her voice. "Good. That's good." He stood, still holding the twins, and looked at Marco. "How many did we lose?" 3 men, 2 wounded." Damien's expression went cold. "And Volkov?" "Headed north. We disabled one vehicle, but he took the other." "Then he's going back to the villa," Damien said, understanding flooding his face. "He's going after my mother, after Sophia." "Boss, we need medical attention. We need to regroup. We need to move," Damien interrupted. "Now, before he gets there." But even as he said it, his phone rang. He answered it, listened for 10 seconds, and the color drained from his face. "What is it?" Nora asked. Damien lowered the phone slowly. "That was Isabella. Volkov's at the villa. He has Sophia. And he says if I don't bring him the twins in the next hour, he's going to kill her." The words dropped into the cave like stones into deep water. "No," Marco said. "Boss, you can't." "I know what I can't do," Damien snapped. He set the twins down gently and turned to Nora. "Take them up to the vehicles. There's a medical kit in the SUV. Bandage anything that needs bandaging, and wait for me." "Where are you going?" "To end this." He checked his weapons, reloaded with quick, practiced movements. "One way or another, Volkov dies tonight." "Damien, you can't trade the children." "I'm not trading anything," he said. "I'm going to get my sister back. And then I'm going to make Volkov wish he'd never heard the name Moretti." He started for the path, but Nora caught his arm. "Let me come with you." "Absolutely not. He wants leverage, something you care about. What if I went instead? Offered myself in exchange for Sophia?" Damien stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "Have you completely—" No, you're not going anywhere near him." "Then what's your plan? Storm the villa alone, get yourself killed? If that's what it takes." "And leave your children without a father?" Nora's voice rose. "After everything we've been through, everything you've said about protecting them, you're just going to throw your life away?" "I'm not throwing it away," Damien said. "I'm spending it. On family, the way my father did. The way every Moretti has done when it mattered." "That's not nobility," Nora said desperately. "That's suicide." "Maybe." Damien's eyes were dark and certain. "But it's my choice to make." He pulled free from her grip and started up the path. Nora watched him go, watched him climb toward almost certain death, and something inside her snapped. She turned to Marco. "Give me your phone." "Miss Vance, give it to me, now." Marco hesitated, then handed it over. Nora dialed the number she'd seen Damien use, the one that connected directly to the villa. It rang twice before a voice answered, Russian accent, coldly amused. "Moretti, I wondered when you'd call." "This isn't Damien," Nora said. "This is Nora Vance, the twins' mother." A pause. "Interesting. And why are you calling me, Miss Vance?" "Because I'm making you a deal," Nora said, her heart pounding. "You let Sophia go. You let Damien's family go. And I'll bring you what you really want." "The children?" "Me." Nora ignored Marco's sharp intake of breath. "I'm the one Damien cares about. I'm the one he came looking for. Take me, let everyone else go, and you'll have the leverage you need to control him." Volkov laughed. "A noble offer, but I think I'll take the children anyway. Better insurance." "You won't get them," Nora said. "Damien has them hidden, protected. It would take you days to find them, if you ever did. But me? I'm standing right here. One life for your freedom. That's the deal. Another pause, longer this time. How do I know you'll come alone? You don't, but you know Damien won't let his children anywhere near you. This is your only chance to get something he values enough to trade for. The villa, Volkov said. 1 hour. Come alone, or the sister dies. The line went dead. Nora lowered the phone and found Marco staring at her in horror. You can't do this, he said. The boss will kill me. Then he'll kill you. He's going to get himself killed if someone doesn't stop him, Nora said. This is the only way. This is insane. Maybe. Nora looked up at the path where Damien had disappeared. But it's my choice to make. She kissed the twins, told them to be brave, and started climbing before Marco could stop her. Above, the lighthouse still swept its beam across the dark water, a promise of safety that Nora knew was a lie. There was no safety, not for people like them. There was only the choice between running and fighting, and Nora was done running. Nora found Damien halfway to his vehicle, already barking orders into his phone. She ran to him, grabbing his arm with enough force to make him turn. I called Volkov, she said before he could speak. I made a deal. The phone slipped from Damien's hand. You what? I offered myself in exchange for Sofia. He agreed. I have... She checked Marco's phone. 45 minutes to get to the villa. For a moment, Damien just stared at her. Then he grabbed her shoulders hard enough to bruise. Are you out of your mind? You don't just negotiate with a man like Volkov. I just did. Nora met his eyes steadily. And unless you have a better plan that doesn't involve you dying, this is what's happening. No, Damien's voice was steel. Absolutely not. I'll tie you up in that cave before I let you walk into that villa. Then Sofia dies, Nora said. And it'll be on you. Your choice, save your sister or save your pride. This isn't about pride. Damien was shouting now, his control completely shattered. This is about keeping you alive, you and the twins. That's all that matters. Then you should understand why I'm doing this. Nora pulled free from his grip. Because the twins need their father, and their aunt, and their grandmother. They need their family whole, Damien, not broken by your need to be the hero. I am not letting you die for me. You don't get to decide that, Nora's voice cracked. For 4 years, I made every decision about those children alone. I chose where they lived, what they ate, who they talked to, everything. And I was wrong. I know that now. But this is my choice, mine, and you're going to respect it. They stood toe to toe, both breathing hard, while around them Damien's men pretended not to listen. Finally, Damien spoke, his voice raw. I can't lose you. Not now. Not when I just found you again. The admission made Nora's eyes burn. You won't, because you're going to be right behind me, aren't you? You're going to have a plan, some brilliant tactical maneuver that saves everyone. Nora, tell me you have a plan, she begged. Tell me I'm not walking in there to die. Damien closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the strategist was back, the emotion locked down behind armor. I have a plan, but it requires perfect timing and you doing exactly what I say. I'm listening. He pulled her to the nearest vehicle and spread a map across the hood. The villa has 3 entrances: main gate, service entrance, and an old smuggler's tunnel that runs from the wine cellar to the cliffs. Volkov won't know about the tunnel. My father kept it secret even from most of the family. So you'll come in through the tunnel while I distract him at the front. Not me. Marco and a strike team. Damien's finger traced the route. I'm going through the main gate with you. What? That's suicide. That's insurance, Damien corrected. Volkov wants leverage. If I'm there too, unarmed, surrendering myself along with you, he'll feel like he's won. His guard will drop just enough for Marco to make his move. Nora studied the map, her mind racing. And Sofia? Where will he be keeping her? Library, most likely. It's central, defensible, has only 2 exits. Damien pulled up security footage on his phone, somehow still connected to the villa's systems. Look, there. The screen showed Sofia tied to a chair in the library, her face bruised but defiant. Two guards stood by the door, and pacing in front of her like a caged animal was a man Nora assumed was Volkov, tall, blonde, with the kind of cold beauty that made her skin crawl. "How many men does he have inside?" she asked. "8 that we can see on the cameras. Maybe more hidden." Damien zoomed in on different angles. The attack on the lighthouse pulled most of his forces. This is a skeleton crew, but still dangerous. And Luca? Any sign of him? Damien's jaw tightened. No, either Volkov lied about having him, or he's being kept somewhere else. He looked at her. "There's a chance we're walking into this and my brother's already dead. You need to understand that." "I do." Nora touched his arm gently. "But we have to try. For your mother, for Sophia, for all of us." He covered her hand with his. "If this goes wrong, if I tell you to run. You don't look back. You get to Marco and the twins and you disappear. Promise me." "Damien, promise me, Nora." She thought about the twins waiting in that cave, probably terrified, definitely confused. She thought about the life she'd built in Seattle, the quiet safety she'd convinced herself was enough. She thought about this man in front of her, who'd torn her world apart and somehow started to put it back together, and made a promise she knew she wouldn't keep. "I promise." They drove to the villa in tense silence, Damien making call after call to position his men. Marco had already taken a team through the tunnel entrance. Others were spreading out around the perimeter, hidden in the olive groves and outbuildings. It was a coordinated assault waiting to happen, held back only by Damien's signal. The villa appeared ahead, lit up like a beacon. Every light was on, and Nora could see figures moving behind the windows. Armed men, waiting. "Last chance to back out," Damien said quietly. "Not a chance." He stopped the vehicle at the main gate and raised his hands in surrender as two guards approached, weapons raised. Nora did the same, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "We're here to see Volkov," Damien called out. "Tell him Moretti and the woman are here to negotiate." The guards exchanged glances. One spoke into a radio, listened, then nodded. "Out of the vehicle. Slowly. Keep your hands where we can see them." They climbed out, and the guards immediately patted them down. They found the knife Damien had hidden in his boot, the small gun at Nora's ankle that she'd taken from Marco's kit, but they missed the razor blade sewn into Damien's jacket collar. It wasn't much, but it was something. The guards marched them through the ruined villa, past bullet holes and bloodstains that were barely a day old, to the library. The doors opened, and there was Sophia, still tied to the chair, and Volkov turning to greet them with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Damien Moretti," he said in accented English. "So good of you to join us, and you brought your little bird. How touching." "Let my sister go," Damien said without preamble. "We're here. You have what you want." "Do I?" Volkov circled them slowly. "Because what I wanted was your children, your heirs, and instead you bring me their mother and yourself. A poor trade, I think." "The children are protected," Nora said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "You'll never find them, but you have us. That should be enough." Volkov stopped in front of her, studying her face with clinical interest. "You're the one who ran, who stole Moretti's children and hid them for 4 years. He glanced at Damien. "She must be very special for you to chase her halfway around the world." "She's the mother of my children," Damien said flatly. "Of course she's special. And yet she ran from you, feared you enough to disappear completely." Volkov's smile widened. "What does that say about the kind of man you are, I wonder?" "It says I gave her reason to be afraid," Damien admitted, and the honesty in his voice made Volkov's eyes narrow. "I was younger then, more reckless. I've learned since then what really matters." "Family?" Volkov laughed. "How sentimental. Your father would be ashamed." "My father died protecting his family," Damien said. "I'm doing the same." "By surrendering?" Volkov gestured to his guards. "Tie him up. Next to the sister. Let's make this a proper family reunion." Two guards grabbed Damien and forced him into a chair beside Sophia. As they tied his hands, Damien caught his sister's eye. "You okay?" he murmured. "Better than you're about to be," Sophia whispered back. "Damien, there's something you should know." "Quiet!" Volkov snapped. He turned to Nora, still standing free in the center of the room. "Now then, Let's discuss terms. You want me to release them. I want your children. We seem to be at an impasse. What about Luca? Nora asked, thinking fast. Damien's brother. You said you had him. Prove it. Volkov's expression flickered, just for a second, but long enough for Nora to catch it. Uncertainty. Maybe even fear. Luca is not your concern, he said. He is if we're negotiating, Nora pressed. Show us proof of life, and maybe we can talk about the twins. I said he's not your concern. Volkov's control was slipping now, and Nora realized something crucial. He didn't have Luca. Maybe he never had. You're bluffing, she said slowly. The whole thing about Damien's brother, it was a lie. You were trying to manipulate him into giving up the children, but you never had anything to trade. Volkov's hand cracked across her face so fast she didn't see it coming. She hit the floor hard, tasting blood, and through the ringing in her ears heard Damien roar. Touch her again, and I will burn your entire bloodline to ash. You're not in a position to make threats, Volkov said, but there was something manic in his eyes now. You destroyed my operations, killed my men, cost me millions, and you think you can just surrender and make it all go away? I think you're a dead man no matter what happens here tonight, Damien said coldly. The only question is how many people you take with you. Volkov pulled out a gun and pressed it to Sophia's temple. Starting with her, I think. Wait. Nora struggled to her feet, her cheek already swelling. Just wait. You want leverage? You want something Damien cares about? I can give you that. Nora, don't... Damien started, but she cut him off. I know where the children are, she said. I can take you to them. Right now. Just let Sophia and Damien go and I'll lead you straight to the twins. You're lying, Volkov said. I'm their mother. Of course I know where they are. Nora took a step toward him, hands raised. Damien thinks he hid them, but I know every hiding place he has, every safe house, every escape route. I was planning his organization before you were even on his radar. It was a complete lie. But Volkov's expression said he was considering it. Why would you betray your own children? He asked. Because I don't want to watch my children's father die, Nora said simply. I ran from Damien because I was scared, but I came back because... She looked at Damien, and the emotion in her eyes wasn't feigned. Because they need him, and so do I. How touching, Volkov said, but he lowered the gun from Sophia's head. Fine. You take me to the children, but they stay here. He gestured to Damien and Sophia. Insurance, in case you're lying. No, Damien said. If she goes, I go. I don't trust you to keep your word. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. Then shoot me now and lose your only chance at finding my children, Damien said. Your choice. Volkov considered, then smiled. Very well, we all go. One big happy family trip, but if you try anything at all, I start killing, starting with the sister. He nodded to his guards, who cut Damien and Sophia free, but kept guns trained on them. Then Volkov grabbed Nora's arm, his grip bruising, and hauled her toward the door. They were halfway across the villa's entrance hall when all the lights went out. Darkness swallowed them whole, and in that split second of confusion, Nora felt Damien move. He grabbed her, yanking her down as gunfire erupted from every direction. She hit the marble floor and covered her head, and above her the world exploded into chaos. Marco's team had entered through the tunnel, cutting the power on their way. Now they were pouring into the villa, and Damien's perimeter teams were crashing through windows and doors. The skeleton crew Volkov had left was vastly outnumbered, but they fought with desperate fury. Stay down, Damien shouted at Nora, already moving toward where Sophia had been. But in the darkness and confusion, Nora couldn't see anything. Just muzzle flashes and shadows and the terrible sounds of men dying. Something grabbed her ankle and she kicked out instinctively. A man cursed in Russian, and then Damien was there, his fist connecting with a sickening crunch. The man went down and didn't get up. Where's Volkov? Damien demanded, hauling Nora to her feet. I don't know. I lost him when the lights went out. A gun fired close enough that Nora felt the heat of it, and Damien shoved her behind a marble column. He's running! The coward's running! He pressed something into her hand. A small pistol, probably taken from one of the guards. Stay here. Don't move unless you have to. Where are you going? To finish this. He disappeared into the smoke and darkness, and Nora crouched behind the column, trying to control her breathing. Around her, the battle was winding down. Damien's men were professional, efficient, overwhelming. But Volkov was still out there somewhere, still dangerous. A hand touched her shoulder and Nora spun, raising the gun, but it was Sophia. "Don't shoot, it's me!" Sophia was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, but otherwise seemed unharmed. "Are you okay?" "Fine." "Where's Damien?" "He went after Volkov. They're heading for—" Sophia stopped, her eyes going wide. "The old lighthouse. He's trying to get to the old lighthouse where you were hiding." Nora's blood went cold. "The twins. He knows where they are." "How could he know? We've been so careful." "Someone talked, or he followed us, it doesn't matter." Nora was already running for the door, Sophia right behind her. "We have to get there first." They burst out of the villa into the pre-dawn darkness and found one of Damien's vehicles still running, keys in the ignition. Nora didn't think, just jumped in and floored it. Sophia scrambled into the passenger seat and they tore down the coastal road with the speedometer climbing toward 90. "Can you shoot?" Nora asked. "Well enough." Sophia checked the gun she'd taken from one of Volkov's guards. "But I'm better with knives." "I'll keep that in mind." The lighthouse appeared ahead, its beams still cutting through the darkness. And parked at the base was a black sedan Nora didn't recognize. Volkov's vehicle. "He's here," Sophia breathed. Nora killed the engine and coasted to a stop 100 yards away. They approached on foot, moving as quietly as they could across the rocky ground. The lighthouse door was open, and inside Nora could hear voices. Volkov's voice, and another one. Smaller. Frightened. Maya. Nora's vision went red. She charged through the door without thinking, and the scene that greeted her stopped her heart. Volkov had Maya by the arm, his gun pressed to her head. Eli was on the floor, crying, and Marco was slumped against the wall, blood spreading across his shirt from a wound in his shoulder. "Mama!" Maya sobbed when she saw Nora. "Let her go," Nora said, raising her gun with shaking hands. "Please, she's just a child." "A child who's worth everything to Moretti," Volkov said. "Which makes her the perfect insurance policy. Now drop the gun, or I pull the trigger." "Don't do it," Marco gasped from the floor. "Miss Vance, don't—" "I have to." Nora let the gun clatter to the floor. "Just don't hurt her, please." Volkov smiled. "So predictable. All of you Morettis and your precious family." He pressed the gun harder against Maya's head, and the little girl whimpered. "It's pathetic, really, this loyalty to blood. In my organization, we understand that only power matters, only fear." "That's why you'll lose," said a voice from the doorway. Damien stepped into the lighthouse, and he looked like death itself. Blood-covered, wild-eyed, but completely focused on Volkov and the child he was threatening. "Because you don't understand what it means to have something worth dying for," Damien continued, his voice eerily calm. "You think fear is strength, but it's not. It's just fear. And eventually, everyone you've terrorized will turn on you." "Touching speech," Volkov said, "but it doesn't change the fact that I have your daughter. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of here, let me get to my vehicle and drive away. And once I'm safely across the border, I'll release the girl." "You'll kill her the moment you're clear," Damien said. "We both know it." "Perhaps, but you don't have a choice." Volkov backed toward the door, dragging Maya with him. "Unless you want to watch her die right now." "Let me offer you a different option," Damien said. "You let my daughter go, and I let you die quickly instead of spending the next 3 days screaming." Volkov laughed. "You're in no position to—" He never finished the sentence. Sophia moved like lightning, the knife she'd palmed appearing in her hand and burying itself in Volkov's shoulder. The Russian screamed, and his grip on Maya loosened just enough. Damien crossed the space between them in 2 strides and ripped Maya away, shoving her toward Nora. Then he turned on Volkov with a violence that was almost beautiful in its precision. The fight was brief and brutal. Volkov was wounded, off balance, and Damien was fighting for his children. There was no contest. Within seconds, Damien had Volkov on the ground, a hand around his throat, squeezing. "Wait," Volkov choked out. "Please, I can pay you. Tell you where my money is hidden. Anything." "There's nothing you have that I want," Damien said, "except your death." "Please," Volkov gasped. "Mercy." "You held a gun to my daughter's head," Damien said quietly. "There is no mercy for that." He squeezed harder, and Volkov's struggles weakened, then stopped. and Damien didn't let go until he was absolutely certain the Russian would never threaten his family again. Then he stood, turned, and found his children. Eli and Maya were clinging to Nora, both crying, and when Damien approached, they flinched. For a moment, he just stood there, looking at them with an expression of such raw pain that Nora's heart broke. "It's okay," she told the twins gently. "It's over now. You're safe." "Papa hurt the bad man," Eli whispered. "Yes," Damien said, his voice rough. "I did. To protect you. To make sure he could never hurt you again." "Are you going to hurt us?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. The question made Damien drop to his knees. "Never, never, Tesoro. I would die before I let anyone hurt you, including me." He reached out slowly, giving them time to pull away. But they didn't. Instead, slowly, hesitantly, they moved toward him. And when Maya's small hand touched his cheek, when Eli leaned against his shoulder, Damien closed his eyes and wrapped his arms around them both. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry for all of it." "It's okay, Papa," Maya said, her child's logic simple and pure. "You saved us." Nora watched them, this killer, and these innocent children, and understood something fundamental. Damien was both things at once, the monster and the protector, the threat and the shield. And the twins, young as they were, understood that in a way Nora was only beginning to. Sophia was helping Marco to his feet, and he waved off her concern. "Just a flesh wound. I've had worse." "You let him get past you," Sophia said, but there was no real accusation in it. "He cheated. Shot me from behind like a coward." Marco looked at Damien. "Boss, I'm sorry. I failed." "You kept them alive," Damien interrupted. "That's all that matters. Can you walk?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Then let's get out of here before the police show up. We've got a mess to clean up." The drive back to the villa was surreal. Nora sat in the back seat with the twins sleeping between her and Damien and watched the sun rise over the Mediterranean. The night had felt endless, but dawn came anyway. It always did. At the villa, Isabella was waiting, and when she saw them, saw Damien and Sophia alive, saw the twins safe, she collapsed in relief. Damien helped her to a chair while Sophia started giving orders to the cleanup crew. "Is it over?" Isabella asked. "Is Volkov—" "Dead," Damien confirmed. "It's over, Mama." "And Luca?" Damien's expression tightened. "He was never there. Volkov was bluffing, using our hope against us." Isabella closed her eyes, and a single tear tracked down her cheek. "Then my son is still gone." "Not forever," Damien said. "I'll find him. I swear to you, I'll bring him home." "How can you promise that?" "Because I didn't believe I'd ever find Nora or the twins," Damien said, looking at them. "And here they are. Miracles happen, Mama, even for people like us." Over the next few days, the villa slowly returned to order. Damien's men repaired the damage, replaced the windows, scrubbed away the bloodstains. The twins explored the gardens and played with the horses, slowly forgetting the terror of that night in the lighthouse. Children were resilient that way. Nora wasn't so lucky. She still woke up with nightmares, still jumped at sudden noises. But Damien was there, patient and steady, and slowly the fear began to fade. On the fourth day, she found him in his study, staring at a photograph. When she got closer, she saw it was a picture of a young man who looked startlingly like Damien, same dark eyes, same sharp jawline. "Luca?" she asked. "Yes, taken a week before the car accident." Damien set down the photo. "I've had investigators searching for 3 years. Nothing. It's like he vanished." "Maybe he did," Nora said gently. "Maybe he survived the crash and decided to disappear, start over somewhere new." "Without telling his family? Without a word?" Damien shook his head. "That's not Luca. He would have found a way to contact us." "Unless he couldn't, unless someone was preventing him." "You think he's being held somewhere?" "I think it's possible." Nora sat on the edge of his desk. "Volkov bluffed about having him, but that doesn't mean someone doesn't. Maybe a rival organization. Maybe someone who wants leverage against you." "I've thought of that," Damien admitted. "But 3 years, Nora. If someone was holding him for ransom, they would have made demands by now." "Not if they're waiting for the right moment." Not if they're playing a longer game. She touched his hand. Don't give up on him. Not yet. Damien turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. I won't, but I also can't let finding him consume my life. Not when I have other people who need me here. The twins. And you. He pulled her closer until she was standing between his knees. I know I didn't say it before. During all the chaos and violence, but I need to say it now. Damien, I love you, he said simply. I think I loved you 4 years ago, but I was too stupid and too proud to recognize it. And when you left, when you took that future away from me, I understood what I'd lost. His hands framed her face. But now you're here. They're here, and I'm not letting go again. Ever. Nora felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too. I think I always did. Underneath the fear. But I'm still scared, Damien. Scared of this world. Scared of what it could do to them. Then we change it, Damien said. We make it safer. We build something better for them and for any other children we might have. Other children? Nora laughed through her tears. You want more? I want everything, Damien said fiercely. Everything I missed with the twins. I want it with you, with them, with whatever comes next. I want the whole messy, beautiful, terrifying experience of family. Nora kissed him then, pouring 4 years of longing and regret and hope into it. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. Marry me, Damien said. What? Marry me. Make this official. Give the twins both parents under one roof, with one name. He was already pulling a ring from his desk drawer, a simple band with a single perfect diamond. I bought this 4 years ago, the week before you disappeared. I was going to ask you then, but I chickened out. I'm not chickening out now. Nora looked at the ring, at this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man, and thought about all the reasons she should say no. The violence, the threats, the inevitable enemies that would keep coming. But then she thought about the twins calling him Papa, about Isabella teaching them Italian, about Sophia showing Eli how to skip stones, about the family they were building in the ruins of everything they'd lost. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. Damien slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting all this time for her to be ready to wear it. They were married 3 weeks later in the villa's garden, surrounded by olive trees and the scent of Mediterranean flowers. The twins were ring-bearers, solemn in their little suits, and Isabella cried happy tears throughout the ceremony. Sophia served as Nora's maid of honor, having forgiven her for the years of separation with the pragmatic observation that at least Nora had kept the kids alive and away from their father's enemies. It was small and private and perfect, and when Damien kissed his bride, Eli made gagging noises while Maya giggled. You're stuck with us now, Nora murmured against Damien's lips. Thank God for that, he murmured back. The reception lasted until dawn, and when the sun rose, Nora stood on the terrace, watching the light paint the hills gold. Behind her, she could hear the twins playing, Isabella laughing at something Sophia said, and Damien's low voice as he spoke with Marco about security arrangements. Normal things, family things. 4 years ago, she'd been convinced that running was the only way to protect her children. That distance and lies and a new identity were the only shields against the violence of Damien's world. She'd been wrong. The protection hadn't come from hiding. It had come from standing and fighting, from trusting that Damien would do exactly what he'd promised, burn the world down to keep them safe. Footsteps approached, and Damien's arms wrapped around her from behind. What are you thinking about? How wrong I was, Nora admitted. About everything. Not everything. You were right that they needed protection. You just chose the wrong method. And what's the right method? This. Damien gestured to the villa, to his family scattered through it. Building something strong enough that nothing can tear it down. That's how we protect them. Not by hiding from the world, but by making the world think twice before it challenges us. Spoken like a true crime boss, Nora teased. Spoken like a father, Damien corrected. There's a difference. A week later, Damien got the call he'd been waiting 3 years to receive. One of his investigators had found something, a lead on Luca's whereabouts. A clinic in Switzerland that specialized in traumatic brain injuries. A patient admitted 3 years ago after a car accident, no identification, no memory of his previous life. A patient with Damien's eyes and Luca's fingerprints. They flew to Switzerland the next day, bringing Isabella and leaving the twins with Sophia and a security team. The clinic was in the Alps, all clean white walls and professional calm, and the director met them with cautious optimism. "The patient we believe to be your son has made remarkable progress," she said in accented English. "But his memories are fragmented. He knows his name is Luca, knows he had a family, but faces and specifics elude him." "Can we see him?" Isabella asked, her voice trembling. The director led them to a sun-filled room where a man sat by the window, reading. He looked up when they entered, and Nora heard Isabella gasp. It was Luca. Older, thinner, with scars along his temple that spoke of serious injury, but unmistakably him. He studied them with polite confusion. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "Luca," Damien said, his voice rough with emotion. "It's me, Damiano, your brother." Something flickered in Luca's eyes, recognition, maybe, or just hope. "Damiano," he repeated slowly. "I've dreamed about someone with that name. Dark hair, always protecting everyone." "That's you, Caro," Isabella said, moving closer. "That's your brother, and I'm your mother. We've been looking for you for so long." "I'm sorry I don't remember." Luca's frustration was evident. "The doctors say the memories might come back, or they might not. I'm sorry." "Don't be," Damien said. He sat down across from his brother, mirroring his position. "We have time. All the time you need. We'll help you remember, or we'll make new memories. Whatever you need." And they did. Over the next months, Luca slowly returned to them. Some memories came back in fragments. A childhood game, their father's voice, the smell of Isabella's cooking. Others were gone forever, lost to the trauma. But it didn't matter, because the important thing was that he was alive, he was safe, and he was home. The twins took to Uncle Luca immediately, climbing on him and demanding stories, even though he couldn't remember most of them. He would make them up instead, wild tales that had the children in stitches, and slowly he began to smile again, to laugh, to heal. 6 months after the wedding, Nora discovered she was pregnant. She told Damien on the terrace where they'd been married, and he picked her up and spun her around with a joy so pure it made her dizzy. "Another one," he said wonderingly. "We're having another baby. Are you happy?" "Happy?" Damien set her down carefully, his hands on her still flat stomach. "Nora, I'm terrified and thrilled and so grateful I can barely breathe. This is everything I never thought I'd have." The baby came in the spring, a girl with Nora's green eyes and Damien's stubborn chin. They named her Luna for the moon that had been full the night they'd escaped to the lighthouse. And when the twins met their sister, Eli declared her too small, while Maya promised to teach her everything she knew. Life settled into a rhythm. Damien still ran his empire, but differently now. He was more careful, more strategic, choosing his battles instead of fighting every war. He built schools and hospitals, funding them quietly through shell corporations. He created jobs and opportunities, building legitimate businesses alongside the criminal ones. "I'm trying to leave them something better," he told Nora one night, watching the children sleep. "So they have choices, so they can walk away if they want to. And if they don't want to, if they choose this life anyway, then I teach them to do it right," Damien said. "To protect instead of destroy. To build instead of burn. That's all any father can do. Give his children the tools and pray they use them wisely." Nora looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the family they'd built from the ashes of her fear and his loneliness. And she understood something fundamental. She'd spent 4 years running from Damien because she'd been afraid of what he was. But what he wasn't the whole story. He was also a father who would die for his children, a son who'd searched for his brother for 3 years, a husband who'd burned his world down to keep his family safe. He was complicated and contradictory and flawed, just like everyone else, just like her. And maybe that was the real lesson, that love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone worth fighting for, worth forgiving, worth choosing over and over again, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Outside, the Mediterranean sparkled in the afternoon sun. In the garden, Isabella was teaching the twins how to make pasta, while Luca watched with a smile that was slowly becoming familiar again. Sophia was on the phone coordinating Damien's latest legitimate business venture. and Luna was sleeping peacefully in her bassinet, tiny fists curled against her cheeks. Normal things, family things, the things Nora had been running toward all along, even when she'd thought she was running away. "What are you thinking about?" Damien asked, pulling her close. "That I'm glad I came back," Nora said honestly. "That I'm glad you found us. That despite everything, all the fear and danger and chaos, I wouldn't change any of it. Not even the part where you had to hide for 4 years?" "Not even that," Nora said, "because it brought us here. To this moment. And this moment is perfect." Damien kissed her temple. "It really is." And in the villa that had stood for 300 years, that had weathered wars and storms and the worst that humanity could throw at it, a new generation was growing up, learning to be strong and kind in equal measure, learning that family was worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth everything. The war with Volkov was over. The children were safe. Luca was home. And somewhere in the future there would be other threats, other enemies, other battles to fight. But for now, there was peace. And for a family like the Morettis, peace was the rarest treasure of all.